that snazzy intro. It is Rob Live. We're back in the studio, and Jim's been bugging me. He says, hey, you never ask people to subscribe. Please subscribe and like and enjoy the channel. We put a lot of work into this, especially Jim. We love the beautiful studio, so we'd love for everyone to catch every episode. So please consider subscribing if you enjoy our content. Well, today we've got a guy that I've been stalking for a while now, right? Seen him around town reporting the sports, and I was like, this guy looks familiar. Finally talked to him, find out we have a lot of mutual friends, and he has some great stories about the history of Puro Dinuba in the house today with Mr. Paul Meadors. Good to see you, sir.
What's up, man?
Oh, my
Happy
wires
to be
there.
here. I feel comfortable in this studio. We got
Even
video games, pool table.
Mosquitoes? We even got mosquitoes live.
A couple. This is great.
Oh, awesome. So, Paul, the backstory is that Sierra Pacific, where I work, we made it to the Valley Championship, I want to say about 3-4 years ago. And so I go to the Valley Championship game, and I see all the reporters and the radio hosts lined up, doing play-by-play. And I see this guy behind the mic, and I'm like, where do I know him from? I know I've seen you before, and I was like, he's got to have some sort of connection. And sure enough, someone finally told me, no, he's from Dinuba. So clarify for all of our audience, what's the Dinuba roots? What's the
Dinuba, right? Dinah. That's what we remember it as. So we had a great conversation right before we went on air about the history of Dinuba and my family's involvement. And I was actually born in San Jose. My dad graduated from Dinuba High, my mom from Reedley. My dad had a tour in Vietnam, and when he came back, my grandparents were friends with each other, and so they introduced my future mom and dad, and at a Tupperware party. Kind of interesting, right?
Tupperware, way back.
Way back. So so after my dad came back from Vietnam, they were married pretty quickly. They were about 27, 28 years old. And my dad went to San Jose State, got a degree in graphic design, and lived there for the first 3.5 years. And they wanted the small town feeling. They wanted to have the experience that they had growing up in that small town. And, my dad had a job at an ad agency. And funny story about that really quick is my dad worked for a commercial ad agency. And the guy next to him in his cubicle ended up being the guy that designed the Apple logo.
Wow.
No joke. And
did he see him working on it? Or?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But it was later after my dad uprooted his family and moved back to Dinuba. But yeah, there's actually a picture of him. I can't remember his name. Picture of him and his wife and their child at my first birthday party.
Wow.
So there's the guy that designed the Apple logo. But yeah, so they moved back to Dinuba because they wanted that small town feeling and grow up in that great atmosphere that Dinuba was. My dad grew up on a farm.
Okay.
He was pitching watermelons at age 8. And here's another fun fact. Back then, they gave driver's license to farmers who had sons, or to the sons at age 14. So my dad had driver's license at age 14 because he worked on the farm. So he's driving to school at age 14. And worked on a farm, moved to Dinuba. Like I said, when I was 3.5, my brother was 1 at that time. And I mean, Dinuba it was a great place to grow up. A lot of really good memories growing up in that small town. Small town back then was 10,000. Now I drive through every once in a while, and it's like up to 25,000.
Yeah.
They got their own IHOP. I'm like, what is this? We just had like Rocky's Diner. I remember when
Rocky's
the first Taco Bell.
Burgers,
Remember that?
Yep,
Yeah,
Rocky's
German
Burgers.
sausage sandwiches.
How about this one? Fiestas.
Fiestas right there. They
Frito
had the
boats.
candy in the window. You get your Frito boat for 95 cents, right? Yeah, it was great times.
Good times. Oh, how about this one? Do you remember the Mayan Theater?
They tore it down.
I know.
They used to show double features right there. You could sit.
Did you watch
buy one
movies
ticket.
there?
Couple.
Star Wars. Did you watch Star Wars?
Probably a few times.
We've seen your Star Wars room now, so
yeah, I got a Star Wars vintage collection. But I remember the seats were all these wooden seats, and now everything's stadium seating, and the chairs were wooden and just flat. So yeah, of course, Mayan Theater.
Well, there's also the bowling alley. You want to talk a little bit about the bowling alley?
So my grandfather, Glenn, ran the bowling alley at Dinuba, I think for 5 years. And my dad was a bowling rat, right? You think of gym rats for basketball. My dad was a bowling rat, and get to bowl free games when your dad owns the bowling alley, runs the bowling alley. So yeah, my dad grew up bowling. I just showed you a great picture of my dad. Had that classic form, the legs kicking out, and you get that good spin. And he almost had a perfect game. He was on the very last frame and pulled a 9. pulled a 9 on the last one, missed his perfect game by 1. But yeah, the whole bowling alley, run by my grandfather, and my dad was a graphic artist, so a lot of his art and a lot of his creations are still in the town of Dinuba. The water tower,
Yeah.
it's right there by the park. My dad designed the Dinuba
Oh, he
logo right
did.
there.
Okay.
He did the telephone book for, I think, 13 years in a row. He designed the front of the telephone book for Reedley and Dinuba. So it was really neat. I think it was about 2 years ago. I have 3 daughters. One's already married. I have a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we took a Monday. I think it was one of those days off on a Monday. So we drove into Dinuba. It took about 2 hours, and I'm sure they found a couple parts of it boring, but for the most part, they were generally interested. I said, "Yeah, there's the bowling alley." I said, "There's the park, right?
Yeah.
Roseanne View. Here's the baseball little league field.
Yeah,
that,
the rec
played
center.
on right there, the rec center, and the baseball field looked a lot smaller than
Yeah,
I
know.
remember.
That fence was just
It looked huge, right?
Yeah,
When you played in Little
when
League,
you
you're like,
played.
man, how am I going to ever hit one across or over the field? So we just had a nice time driving through the town, and a lot of my dad's signs are still up throughout the town. So
That is
it was
so
a really
cool to
good
have that legacy
reminder. Yeah, absolutely.
right there in Dinuba. So you went to Lincoln, then you went to Washington Junior High.
Yeah.
And then you move on to Emmanuel.
I went to Emmanuel High School in Reedley. Yeah.
Now, what was your sports legacy along the way? What were you playing?
Baseball. And, I mentioned the Little League Park. I have such fond memories of playing baseball at that Little League Park. And it was within walking distance of the house that we grew up at in Dinuba. United Market and Meat and Heads Pizza right there.
United, yep.
Just kind of behind that. So I was able to watch a lot of baseball games. Even if I was playing, I'd go and check it out. And yeah, baseball was my thing, playing All-Stars. Rossi was our rivals. We would play a Rossi and
From
an
a Rossi
All-Star.
over there. There's a Rossi Cardinal in the house.
Yeah, so a lot of really good memories playing
What was
baseball.
your position in baseball?
Shortstop. all the
Shortstop.
way,
Oh,
all the
right.
way. A little bit of pitching. A
Yeah.
little bit, kind of when they needed somebody to, eat up some innings.
Yeah.
I used to get hit pretty hard, but yeah, played shortstop and yeah.
Yeah, I was also a shortstop at one time. This last year I tried again. It's not so much.
Where'd you end up? Third base?
Well, no, they kept me there. I think out of pity for a while. Then I do a little outfield, and pitching was my main thing this year.
So yeah, we're going to talk about crossing paths and just missing each other in a few different areas in life. But I think I remember you as a pitcher.
Really?
I think
Oh,
I do.
you know
You're
what?
2 years younger.
Yeah, you're probably thinking of my brother, Gus.
Gus Iscardo.
Gus Iscardo. He was a great pitcher.
Gus, okay.
I was in his shadow. Yeah, no, Gus. Yeah, Gus was a great pitcher and a quarterback as well
Okay.
for Dinuba. And I think Emmanuel was in our league, right? Didn't we play?
Yeah, I think a couple years after I graduated in '89. We would play Emmanuel every year in non-league,
Yeah,
right? So we play in baseball, basketball, and football on the non-league schedule.
that's right. So before the first 5 games, right, of every
Yeah.
season, and then
Yeah.
you have your league games. So you get through high school, right? What was high school like for you?
Oh, Emmanuel was great. Emmanuel, yeah.
All 4 years, right?
All 4 years at Emmanuel, and I only knew 2 people at Emmanuel when I went there, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I know this kid, I know this kid. So I didn't know anybody. I didn't play basketball my first year. I wasn't too comfortable trying out for the team at that time, but I played baseball all 4 years. Played varsity. I played in one tournament at my sophomore year up at the Rossi tournament, so that was pretty cool. Got my cup of coffee and then played 2 years as a starter. Played third base actually my junior year, and then my senior year I took over at shortstop at Emmanuel. Hit 380 my senior year. So that was pretty
Nice.
cool. That was pretty cool. And then, but basketball at Emmanuel it's pretty much synonymous. And
Yeah.
I went out my sophomore year, made the team. We went 20-0, undefeated. Yeah,
Nice.
beat Dinuba.
Valley Championship?
No, that was JV. That was
Oh,
JV.
okay, JV.
So then I played my junior year. I played JV again as my junior because that senior class or right above me was really stacked. So I played JV again. We went 20-1. So I
All
lost
right.
one game in JV. And then my senior year, I ended up being the first guy off the bench, improved a lot. And we lost in the Valley. You mentioned the Valley Championship where you
Oh,
saw me in my bald head, right?
Was it Selland Arena?
No, it was actually at Bullard High School. We played Carruthers,
Okay, yeah.
and we lost in
Carruthers
double
Blue
overtime.
Raiders.
The Blue Raiders. And they beat us in double overtime.
Oh, heartbreaker.
But then we still went to state, won the first 2 rounds of state, and then lost at the buzzer by 1 point in the Southern Section final. We could have went to the state
my.
championship game. So
Could have won state.
could have won state. Could have been, Uncle Rico. Could have won state if they put me in.
Now, did you have any aspirations beyond high school for sports?
I did. I wanted to play baseball. I was one of those tweeners, right?
Mhm.
It was like good enough at that level,
Yeah.
at the Emmanuel level. We're playing Woodlake and Lindsay and stuff, but even junior college, I mean, dudes are throwing 90.
Yeah.
Right? And we never saw that at that level.
Yeah.
Maybe, 82, 83. And so I was planning on going to Kings River and trying out, but then I got a music scholarship to Fresno
hold
City
up.
College.
Music
and then Fresno
scholarship.
Pacific.
We haven't even talked about this side of it. So what was your instrument?
Yeah, so I played trumpet throughout. I started in 6th grade at Lincoln School. I played trumpet and made honor bands and all that stuff. And then I sang in the choir all 4 years at Emmanuel. And then I was one of those guys that taught myself how to play piano. So I play
Nice.
piano as well.
Now, do you compose?
I do.
You've written some stuff.
I've written
Would
some
we
stuff.
hear anything? Is there anything on the radio?
Spotify.
or-
No, not on the radio. Spotify.
All right.
I
look
got
up,
some stuff on. So,
and your
yeah.
artist name?
Paul
P-
Meadors. Pretty simple.
Okay,
That's my
Paul
name.
Meadors.
Yeah.
No MC Paul or.
no. That'll probably get me a few more listens
Yeah.
if I had a snazzy name like that.
No,
but-
we're gonna have to look you up. You guys, hey, look up Paul Meadors on Spotify. Meadors. We'll put the spelling in there for you and support him. Now, he's on piano.
It's on piano. So
So is it like John Tesh?
a little bit. There you
there we
go.
go.
Yeah, not quite
I know John
Yanni-ish.
Tesh.
Yeah. John
Okay, that
Tesh.
threw me off. You know why? Because I know John Tesh from Entertainment Tonight.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know him as a musician, and then all of a sudden I started hearing, "Hey, John Tesh put out an album." I'm like, John Tesh from Entertainment Tonight. He's like, "Yeah."
Well, he wrote. Remember the old NBA theme, right? Da 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 da.
Yeah,
da, da,
he
da.
wrote that?
He wrote that. It's
Oh
John
my
Tesh.
my.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so he's the new for me Ray Parker Jr. Remember Ray Parker Jr. Ghostbusters?
He wrote. Yeah, that's his one and only hit.
Okay, you're
One and
right.
done.
But he wrote a couple of hits that I didn't even know about. So
That
he
he
has
did
a star.
sing?
He has a Hollywood star, and I was like, why does Ray Parker Jr. have a Hollywood star for Ghostbusters? Right? Pearl's giving me the face like, what? He wrote Mr. Telephone Man, right?
Really?
Along with a bunch of other hits, he wrote those songs. This is the Ghostbuster guy. Now that was the only song where he was the artist.
Yeah.
But he was the ghostwriter or writer on all these other songs, all these other hits.
Yeah.
And so he has a Hollywood star from all his hit music.
A lot. Yeah. There's a lot of artists like that. Paul Anka, who's famous. He's a famous
Yeah.
writer, singer, songwriter. He wrote a lot of Frank Sinatra songs,
Oh
and he wrote the
my.
theme to the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So yeah, there's
Some guys
a lot
out
of
there.
guys. Yeah, talented
Wow.
guys.
Publishing too. Okay, for all you artists out there, little side note that I've learned throughout the years: if you write the song, right, that just keeps coming in.
Yep.
Right, the royalties. Whereas you perform it, you get the performance money, but then so it goes longer if you're the writer, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So McCartney and Lennon got paid much longer than Harrison and Ringo.
Until Michael Jackson bought the book, right?
Oh,
Didn't he buy
yeah.
the catalog. I think he bought the Beatles catalog.
That
at one
was
time.
dirty. Yeah, I saw the documentary. He asked Paul McCartney, like, "Hey, is there any money in publishing?" He's like, "Yeah." Oh, thanks for the advice, Paul. I'm gonna go buy your catalog. Yeah, Michael Jackson owned the rights to the Beatles. Did you know that, Jim? Made that money. Swat that mosquito. Good job. Okay, so after high school, you get the scholarship as a trumpet player.
Yeah.
And where do you go?
I went to Fresno City for 2 years,
Yeah.
and then got another music scholarship to Fresno Pacific College.
Oh, you're a Sunbird.
I'm a Sunbird. Right
Nice.
through.
I love that campus. I've only been there once, but I watched the basketball game. It kind of feels like Menlo.
Yeah.
I'm a Menlo Oak. Shout out to Menlo Oaks and the Sunbirds. So tell us about Fresno City.
It was to
All right.
me, yeah, Fresno Pacific. It was almost an extension of Emmanuel High School, which they're both Mennonite schools, right?
Yeah.
But it was I had a great time at Fresno Pacific. On one hand, I don't know how I graduated because I did a lot of late runs to Taco Bell, and we'd put a little stopper in the door of the basketball gym,
Yeah.
right? Put a little stopper there, so the maintenance guys, they couldn't tell if the doors were locked, right? They just kind of walk by and see. And then we'd go in at like 1 a.m, turn on the lights, and
Oh,
play basketball
man.
till like 3 a.m, and then maybe get up for class. And then we played a lot of Tecmo Bowl.
Tecmo
Right?
Bowl.
Played Tecmo Bowl, Bo Jackson and Barry Sanders, and hey, aren't you supposed to be in class? Yeah, but I'm playing. This is the championship game. We
Yeah.
have little tournaments in our dorm.
If I recall correctly, Tecmo Bowl did not have the NFL nod, like you weren't actual NFL teams.
Yeah,
right?
they would scrub the logos. 'Cause
Okay.
They didn't have the rights.
But they
to
had
it.
the same players,
You
like,
could put Bo Jackson, Barry Sanders. Those guys were the two best.
but it
guys.
wasn't the Raiders or the.
I don't.
No, I just remember like colored, like there's a blue team,
Yeah.
there's a red team.
Yeah, I have to go back and check.
Now, did you play RBI?
RBI baseball? Of course. There it is.
I got it down. Who wrote that one?
Oh, God. probably either Paul Anka
Let's
or
say
John
Paul
Tesh.
Meadors. I mean, they're not going to look it up.
John Tesh did.
John Tesh. Okay, so you get through college on the trumpet scholarship, which is very impressive. Do you still play?
I
Or you
don't.
switched to keyboard?
I switch. Yeah. So I actually was on a choir concert as well. So I sang in like a men's choir and the big chamber choir.
Wait, were you in madrigals?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
At
That was
Emmanuel.
the.
Did you do that too?
No, that's my regret. The madrigals.
You
I was in
try
the
out?
drum line,
Okay, that's cool
but
too.
the madrigals went to Hawaii,
Oh,
and we went to Pismo. So
Yeah.
I got the short end on that one.
I was part of a barbershop quartet, and we tour around to
Oh,
like old folks' homes.
how
So that was like,
fun.
go to Hawaii, for other gigs or.
You know, I'm gonna have to hit you up. We're putting together a man band pretty soon here, and we're gonna pull in Paul.
Well, you're always already trying to get me to play bass.
Wait,
Paul,
are you? Where are you?
I
Bass?
see. Yeah, I sing bass.
Boom, 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 boom.
I sing bass. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
You hear that? Nice. Yeah, we're gonna recruit you for everything.
Okay.
Baseball.
What am I
Okay.
getting myself into here?
So you get out of college. And what's your move? What's your first move? Like, what are you thinking?
Well, here we go. All right, here's where we almost crossed paths. So
Yeah.
I knew a couple things. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I knew I wanted to go into coaching. Right.
And this is
away.
'94.
I graduated from Fresno Pacific in '94. Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't get my teaching credential right away. I kind of wanted to get in the workforce and coach. So I applied to work at Kingsview Center in Reedley. And then I got to coach at my alma mater. I got to coach right away basketball and baseball at Emmanuel. So I got
Oh.
into coaching. I was able to do both. And I was single then, so I
Yeah.
had a lot of time on my hands. So I worked at Kingsview Center for a year and a
The
half.
Kingsview
There we
Center,
go.
where I was there in '99. I think '99, 2000. Did they have a high school on campus when you were there?
Yeah.
That's
they
how
had
I
a school.
started teaching. I was subbing on campus
There you
there.
go.
I didn't realize I could sub with a 4-year, like a BA. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you got a 4-year? Yeah, you can sub for us." I'm like, "Really?" So did you do any of the teaching there?
No, so I was a counselor.
Do you
So,
remember your unit?
Of course. I know where it was.
I remember
don't
there's
know what we called
Loma.
it.
There's one named Loma, right?
That's right. Loma Vista.
Leffler,
Leffler.
Leffler, right? Is there-
Yeah.
There's a couple
It's
of
coming
them.
back to me.
And so, do you remember which? Were you with the girls, the boys?
No,
or-
boys. Yeah, boys.
Sequoia. There was one called Sequoia.
It would have been the farthest one. Will that be south?
All right. For my viewers and listeners not in the Central Valley, Kingsview Center was a group home. It was a campus of about 7 or 8 different units, correct? And these were kids ages, I believe, from like 12 to 18.
Yeah.
And they had chemical dependency or emotional issues they were working through, and they hired counselors on, right? And that's what we were doing there. I was there in '99. You were there in '94. And what was your experience like there?
I felt like I needed that experience then to get into teaching because it taught me a lot about structure, empathy,
Yeah.
a lot of conversations with the kids. So yeah, I had a couple different shifts throughout the year and a half that I worked there. One was they were 13 and the third hour shifts. So it ended up being close
Yeah,
to 40
that's
hours, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, I think 9:30 in the morning till, I wouldn't leave till 11. And
Did
then
you ever do
it
the
all-
graveyard shift?
I never did graveyard.
I-
I couldn't do that.
I did that once. Well, I wouldn't say once, for about a month or two, and I don't know if paranormal activity. I'm not sure, but I heard some things.
Really?
Yeah, and it was dead at night,
Some
and
spooky stuff?
yeah, and then I did some research. I asked people, hey, what was this facility prior to that? And it had been a facility for adults at one point.
Well, I also heard, not to go pet cemetery on anybody out there, but
Yeah.
it was actually on an Indian burial ground.
Oh, they moved the headstones
They moved it.
like poltergeist.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So
That explains some of the bumps in the night.
I remember hearing a lot of wolves because, like I said, I sometimes work till 11 o'clock,
Yeah,
right?
And we were surrounded by
Uh-huh.
grapevines.
Yeah.
And there was the pond there, the fishing pond.
Well, did you ever run into some situations where you had some kids go AWOL, where you had to go
AWOL.
chase them?
Yes.
And then because there's the Reedley Beach or the river
Yeah.
that's right there. So we're like, once they get that, you're like, you're
Uh,
on your own, guy.
Yeah.
You're on. I'm not crossing that.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
But yeah, it was our responsibility, right? That we
Yeah.
had to try and bring them back if they went AWOL.
But yeah,
remember
that was
happened a few times.
It was, I learned a lot during that time. I think
Yeah.
it prepared me for teaching. You would probably say
Oh,
the
yeah.
same because
It was teacher boot camp.
teacher boot camp, you had to learn to,
And
set your
fast.
ways straight and act fast and think fast and say no a lot, right? As a teacher, I feel like I say no, 80% of the time. Can I do this? Can I do that? Mr.
Yeah.
Meadors, could we have free time? No, what are you talking about free time? No, it's time to get to work. Those types of things. And Kingsview Center really prepared me that
Yeah.
to stay strong, because they'll eat you up. They'll eat you alive.
They will. They will especially when you're a new teacher. Okay, so now you're at Kingsview, and is that when you started at Traver right after that?
Yeah. So I was coaching, like I said, at Emmanuel. I got a 7 to 3:30 shift 5 days a week, so I was able to do that in the afternoon. And I'm like, okay, it's time. It's time to go back and get my credential. So I went through. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking? They took a lot of my money. The night classes.
Yeah.
What was the name of that credential? The
Was this
credential school.
National?
There it is. National
yeah,
University. Yeah,
I didn't understand the concept at first. Like,
Oh.
I was waiting for a campus with a stadium and a football team.
No.
Like, I didn't get it at first.
I know. Where is this National
You guys know
University?
National? It's like Phoenix, where there's like just satellite campuses everywhere, and it's I thought it was like a real school with the stadium and stuff. I was
No,
like,
you're gonna go to watch some soccer
yeah,
games?
I thought I was gonna. Do you guys have a soccer team? No, we're not that kind of school. So you were at National University.
Yeah. So
Knocked it out.
that was the time when a lot of teachers were getting hired on emergency credentials.
Yes, I
Remember
remember
that?
that.
So it was like the late 90s.
Yes.
And there's some big budget that was pushed by the state, and there's a bunch of money allocated to hiring teachers without credentials, because there was a law that was passed that all elementary grades, 3rd grade and below, had to have 20 or less kids. Right?
Oh, that's right. And so
Mhm.
we needed more
So
teachers.
so
Perfect timing
let's-
for you.
Perfect timing. So, I heard through a friend that there was this town/school called Traver that was looking for a teacher.
Were you already aware of London at that point?
I heard of New London, right? That's how kind of we called it. But
Yeah, I know.
Emmanuel,
Yeah.
right?
They dropped the new later, but
They-
for the old schoolers,
Old
it's
school.
New
We
London.
called it New London, right? Yeah, I knew about all those towns. Growing up at Dinuba, you hear a little bit about,
Did you ever
London,
go
New
to London, Paul?
What's that?
Did you ever go to London?
I know the reasons why people went. You could say it.
That was a trick question. I was gonna say.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, let's be honest, right? People would go to London, New London, to get their drugs.
At that time, yes,
that
in
time.
the 90s. Now we have a library, and it's all
There you
good.
go.
It's
I can't wait to
positive.
get to that feel good part. I'm sure we're gonna discuss
Yeah.
that.
So okay. So then you took the Traver job.
I took it. So I did an interview. The superintendent principal, who lived across from Emmanuel High School, whose son graduated with my brother. So there was that connection. Called me a couple hours later. It said, the 3rd grade job is yours. So I'm like, I'll take it.
Man.
So
And that's
took it.
multi-subject, correct?
yeah, so it was a little bit of everything. And
So you're the PE, you're the science guy, you're the math,
Yeah.
English,
yeah,
social studies.
I did it all.
I've never done like where I've been all of those. What's it like to have to teach every subject? I mean,
it gets a little more complicated, I think, as the years have gone on. Now I teach 5th grade. I've been doing that. Oh my gosh, this is my 27th year. So
congratulations.
eighth-
Can we get a round of
years.
applause for 27 years? Yeah. Woo. Thank you, audience. Thank you. It's packed house today, by the way.
Thank you, NFL Blitz, NBA Jam, and Terminator
Yeah, we have a
Judgment Day.
series-
Those are the games I'm
Series
looking
of
at right now.
arcades cheering us
And
on.
Golden Tee.
And Pearl. We got
And
Pearl.
Pearl. Yeah, so I remember going to that interview, back up a little bit, and I actually didn't know where Traver exactly was.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
called the number, that I was given, and it was the secretary. I said, "Hey, I'm calling about the job. Yeah, we have a 3rd grade position. We're interviewing this week." And I said, "Okay, I'd love to put my name in there." Mr. Nord, George Nord, who I know is the principal. I'd love to come down anytime.
Yeah.
And where's Traver? I didn't know.
There's no Google Maps at the time?
No Google Maps.
Was there
and-
Bravo Farms?
There was Bravo Farms. It was up. But if you're driving south on 99 or north around Traver, it will just say Traver next exit. It won't say a population sign. That's how you know you're in Selma and Kingsburg and all
Yeah.
these towns, because there's a population sign. There's no population sign for Traver. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's Traver. So it's just off of 99. I was living in Fresno at the time. So got the job. I'm still single at that time. I got married a year later. But man, I fell in love with the school, and
Traver's been your one and only school.
100%.
Oh, you are a Mustang through and through.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, like the Danuba Rossi rivalry, and for my viewers who are not here in this area, let's say the Raiders and the Niners, or what's some other rivalries out there?
Yankees, Dodgers.
Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah.
Traver and Kings River.
The Sharks and the Jets.
Man.
If you're
we would circle those Traver games on the schedule.
yeah.
Like we can lose anybody, not Traver.
And we feel the same way all these years. They're still in our league.
Traver was the first time anyone ever called me a Kings River rat.
Ooh,
Were,
that cuts you down right there.
They're like Kings River rat. And I was like, what? Who are those guys in red? So that was our rival school.
Yep.
So
Still is.
So that rivalry still exists?
Still there. Yeah, we've been in the same league since 2001.
Flag football. What else we have?
So we got flag football, volleyball,
Mm-hmm.
and we go to soccer and basketball. And then we actually started, you're going to trip out, we actually started boys volleyball in the spring.
Nice.
This will be our 4th year doing boys volleyball. And
that would have been my sport if it existed back in the day.
And Kings River has they have a gym now, multi-purpose.
So Traver and Kings River both have gyms.
They both have gyms.
Wow.
We
were playing in the elements back. Do you remember playing outdoors? You would shoot. You'd have to adjust for the wind. So you'd shoot here, and the gym, the court, the rim would be to the right there. You had to adjust.
And sometimes if you're playing basketball and it's so cold and that ball hits you in the nose and you feel like your nose is going to fall off and it's broken, it's off to the side of your face.
I love gyms. So you guys have a gym, we have a gym.
Yeah.
And you're the athletic director.
I am athletic director at Traver, and I'm also the president of the league, of the sports league as well.
Congratulations,
so, yeah,
man.
I've done that for about 15 years.
That's a lot to handle.
It is.
So you schedule all the games?
I schedule all the games.
Do we have Stone Corral in your league still?
No.
Remember
no,
Stone
we don't have
Corral?
Stone Corral. We got, we're at 6 schools right now. So we play Munson Sultana.
Oh, yes.
Season
The
2
Red Raiders, right?
The Red Raiders.
So there's Munson, there's Traver, there's Kings River. Who else?
Kings River. There's Clay School, which
Clay,
feeds into
that's
Kingsburg.
right. Clay's in
It's the
Selma.
country school.
Country school.
They're Kingsburg. They feed into Kingsburg.
Okay.
Yeah, Clay School.
Clay Trojans, right?
Clay, they are
Not the Trojans.
Cougars.
The Cougars, Clay Cougars.
And then we got St. LaSalle, which
St.
is
LaSalle, the private school.
The private school in Reedley.
Catholic school.
Catholic school in Reedley.
That's where I went to catechism.
Really?
First communion, Traver.
All right.
Shout out to Mrs. Betancourt. And then who else?
St. LaSalle. Who am I missing? Kingsburg, Parlier.
Parlier.
Yeah, those are our 6 schools. We used to have Emmanuel. And we used to have the Layton Middle School, but they left our league a couple years ago. So we're 6 strong.
I thought Parlier was called Tuolumne. Was the junior high Tuolumne, or is that elementary?
Parlier Junior High. They might be.
Parlier Junior High.
Yeah.
Are they the Panthers, as well?
They're the Panthers. And the
Just
high
like the
school
high
is the
school?
Tigers.
Oh, okay. I got that all mixed up. All right. So now you're a Traver.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that you saw immediately when you got there?
Oh, yeah. I think, first of all, I love the kids to death, right? And you know, growing up in Dinuba, Traver has the same type of demographic, so to speak, and 95% Hispanic, a lot of migrant farm worker kids.
Yeah.
So I think, coming from Emmanuel or Fresno Pacific, you're used to school being done a certain way, but when I went to Traver, all of those things went out the window, right? I have an instant love affair with the school, with the community, and with the kids. I think one of the challenges I think that I faced was how little parent involvement was at that time.
Yeah.
And I still think that's a little bit of an issue today.
And I think there's an intimidation factor as well with the language barrier.
Absolutely. And
even when you have a translator, right? It's still kind of
So in the parent conferences, since day one, I started doing parent conferences. The parents, we usually get 100% attendance for our parent conferences. So the parents are always very concerned. They want to know how their kids are doing in school. What they always want to know, first of all, is how their kids are behaving. Behavior is number one.
Okay,
that's
a good sign.
If my kid is messing up, you call me right away, right? So that's I count that as a good thing, right?
That's surprising because there's been a shift in certain areas where it's not my Johnny. It's like they're defending the child.
We're seeing that seep in a little bit, but for the most part, the parents, they want to know how their kid is behaving, right? So, so that's a good thing to me. I got a couple stories I can share about some of the challenges. When I got to Traver, you mentioned Stone Corral. At that time, they were only playing like 4 games a year. It was like Stone Corral twice, and then this other little school on the way to Hanford twice that's now shut
Kit
down.
Carson?
No,
No.
Kit Carson was a little bit bigger. It's a school that actually shut down
shut
about
down?
10 years ago.
Okay.
They merged with another school. But I remember, I was coaching at Emmanuel, where, Emmanuel's Emmanuel. So they're going to have the best baseball bats. They're going to have the best uniforms. They're going to have parental involvement. You ask them to fundraise.
Yeah.
They're going to get it
No
done.
problem, Booster.
No problem. I get to Traver. They give me a box. They say, these are your uniforms. Those aren't uniforms. Those are T-shirts. Those are like shorts left over from the 70s.
Wow.
Right? And you look at some of my first teams wearing blue jeans to games. I'm like, all right, this has got to change.
Yeah.
Right? We're not doing this. So a few years later, we got into the league, but I'm like, we're going to get the nicest uniforms. I'm going to run these programs, kind of like high school programs, right? We're going to be on time. I'm going to have my leaders. You're leading these kids in stretching, right? So it was a big process, but we got to the point where we've been pretty dominating football over the years.
Really?
Yeah, we have really good football teams. But
I'm
some
so
of the challenges,
glad, that you were there for that.
Yeah, it was really, it's been a fun ride. And as coaches, sometimes you have to take players home after practice or after games, right? It's part of the gig.
Got to feed them sometimes.
Got to feed them sometimes. I've taken them to the blue store, right? That's what we call the.
Which one's the blue store?
Oh, the blue one.
There's
only two
that's
stores.
right, with the gas station?
Yeah, there's only a white store and a blue store.
Yeah.
Take them to the blue store.
I always stop there for the pizza pockets when I go to London and I'm headed back home.
You get some corn dogs.
Yeah,
whatever you want there. But I remember in particular taking home a kid after a game. And, so our demographics, we get some families that live on dairies as well, kind of on the way to Visalia, off of Road 80 right there, kind of before, and some past Road 80 on the Visalia. And I'd have to take some kids kind of to their houses on the dairy. And kids, I don't have their address typed into my phone. They're like, Mr. Meadors, go this way, take this road, turn right here. This one kid took me to this area. I'm like, you sure your house is around here? He's like, yeah, turn on this dirt road. I'm like, okay. So I turn on this dirt road. He's like, turn left on this dirt road. I'm like, how am I going to even get out of this place? Where's your house? And he's like, oh, my house is right there in the middle of the
orchard?
Field, of the orchard.
I've heard about this.
Middle of the orchard. So I'm like, all right. But he's like, hey, Mr. Meadors, let me off right here. It's fine. I'm like, are you sure? It was like maybe 100 yards away. I could see the house. Like, yeah, let me off right here. There was an old abandoned car that was right there. It looked like it was burnt, right? It was torched. And the kid goes up, looks inside the car, pulls out a bicycle, drives the bicycle to his house. So that was his route every morning to get to the bus. He'd drive his bicycle to that abandoned car, and then he'd walk to the road, and then that's where he'd get picked up. So those types of moments gives you a lot of perspective, right? That's why that's why you fight for the kids. That's why you try to get them as nice as things as possible. New uniforms. Get them a soda at the blue store. And then I love after the season. We haven't done it a couple years. COVID kind of took it away from us, but we would go to a Fresno State football game every year. I buy tickets for the kids,
Man, Paul,
take them to my house.
You understand, I'm sure, but it's just that's such a amazing impact you're having on these students. I'm so glad it's you.
Thank you.
To have all these resources and be able to Fresno State, man.
Taking to Fresno State games, and one of my favorite. I just found some pictures too of one of our experiences there. We had won the championship that year, so I got them all shirts that said River League football champions 10-0, Traver Mustangs, and they wore them all to the game because they were so proud. And they walk into the stadium, see where the Bulldogs play, and you just see the expressions on their face.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, this place is huge. And so, it was always a real blessing to be able to do that with the kids.
The reason that hits so deep for me, Pearl here as my witness, we took one of our students to the zoo one time because she was wanting to get into veterinary work. And I said, hey, have you ever been to the Fresno Zoo? She's like, no. Now, this is Hanford, right? So we're taking her to the zoo, and we've got her in the kids. She's with the kids in the van. Our little kids are asking her all these questions, right? We have three kids. Do you remember this? And as we start arriving into Fresno, you know, you see those buildings off the 41 or the 99.
Mhm.
She gets real quiet. And now she's not even listening to the kids. She's just kind of looking at the buildings. And I've seen that look before. That's the look I had when I first went to Disneyland, right? Like, or LA. You're like, what is this? And I said, wait a minute. Have you ever been to Fresno before? No. I said, oh. And so now I'm assuming, okay, so maybe she was raised in another area. I go, where were you born? She goes, right there at the Hanford Hospital. So she's 16 years old. She's been in Hanford her whole life, and she's never had an opportunity to go to Fresno. I can imagine that's a similar story for some of these Traver kids going to a Fresno State football game, Division I. That's amazing.
They loved it. They loved it every year. Every year they were able to go. And there was one year, too, where they allowed fans to go on the field after the game.
What?
So they were able to check out the field. And a couple of them, you know, we actually snuck a football into the game, and we were throwing them some passes into the end zone. So
you already know they're going to talk about this when they're adults to their kids. Huh?
Yeah, and
these are memories.
Absolutely, and get a lot of former students that come by, especially to watch the football games,
sure.
right? And they're hanging out with me.
Mr. Meadors.
That's right. Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, remember when we won the league tournament on this field, and we went into the end zone and we all dived and dogpiled on each other, and just a lot of players, you know, they hold those memories, you know, to their heart, and it's a special place to be.
Now, in addition to everything you're doing at Traver, like if that wasn't enough, you also are with ESPN. Is that correct?
That's right.
So ESPN radio affiliate here in Fresno.
Yeah.
What's the
1430 ESPN.
1430 ESPN. And when can we hear Paul Meadors at work?
So I got my own radio show. This is the third year that I've been able to do it, from 10 to 12 on Saturday mornings.
10 to 12 Saturday mornings, ESPN.
1430.
1430 with Paul Meadors. And what's the name of your show?
So it's called the Central Valley Sports Report.
Okay.
And it focuses a little bit on Fresno State. I'm going to say like 5% on Fresno State, but the other 95% is high school sports around in the Central Valley. So cool. It's a 2-hour show. So I'm able to tackle a lot of subjects. I'll bring in a lot of coaches. I'll bring in like famous people. I've had the pleasure of having Tom Goodwin on my show.
Oh, wow. MLB.
Yeah.
Wait, he was from Hanford, right? Or something?
He's from Central High School. He went to Central and then played at Fresno State, and then was a first-round draft pick by the Dodgers. He was an outfielder.
Okay,
so
one of them was a pitcher.
Are you think there's a really good pitcher from Hanford called Ryan Bowen? Named Tim Scott. He was a high draft pick. Yeah, I think in like '88 maybe.
Yeah, so you meet all these guys.
Yeah, Derek Carr. I got to interview Derek Carr, but not on my radio show. I worked for a newspaper before the radio show. And
he's one of my favorites. Yeah. Okay, so you were writing for the sports column, and I believe you won an award recently. What year was that when you got the award?
So yeah, I won a couple awards for newspaper writing. So I started the sports section for the Clovis Roundup newspaper. It was an independent newspaper. It came out once every 2 weeks, and I kind of lucked into it. There was somebody that I knew that was the editor of the paper, and she posted on Facebook, "Hey, we're trying to start a sports section. Does anybody want to write about high school sports in Clovis?" I saw it for the first time, and I'm like, no, maybe, I don't know. And so I waited a week and it popped up again. I'm like, okay, let me call this lady. So I called her up and she said, yeah, you want to write an article for this week? I said, yeah, there's a Valley Championship baseball game between Buchanan and Clovis at Rawhide Stadium down in Visalia.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'll give it a shot. So I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
You got a press pass?
I made one up. I printed it off the internet.
Paul made his own press pass.
Made my own press pass. So I went to the game, didn't know what I was doing. Took an awful picture on my iPhone through the fence, right? Wrote an article about 400 words long, submitted it, and I couldn't believe it that they actually printed it in the newspaper. So one article led to 2, led to 3, led to 4.
How long have you been doing this?
So I did it for 3 years. Within 1 year, it was named the third best weekly or twice monthly sports section in the state of California.
Wow.
Within a couple years, yeah.
Nice. Got the applause. Woo.
So, yeah, I won a couple of awards. I won an award for an article I did on a football player named Caleb Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then that turned into a podcast. So I did a podcast, stopped writing for the paper, and then the podcast turned into the ESPN gig.
ESPN gig.
Yeah.
Wow. I know you did some other writing as well, right?
Yeah.
So you dabble on eBay?
You can bring that up, huh?
I'm bringing that
I
up.
love it. All right. So, yeah. So in 2005, my kids were young at that time, and my wife went out to play a game called Bunko. Have you ever heard of Bunko? It's a game where a bunch of ladies get together and roll dice.
Is it in the cup and then?
They just roll it with their hands.
Oh, okay.
And there's like tables, and they rotate and they giggle. And
I thought it was like in the street with the cash on the sidewalk.
like they used to do in Dinuba
Yeah.
at the bowling alley
Yeah.
in the corner in the alley, like throw some dice.
Bounce off the
against
wall.
Corner. Yeah. No, so my wife went to go play this game called Bunko.
Bunko. I'm looking that up.
So,
Bunko.
or CO. It could be spelled either way. It's kinda
Bunko.
weird.
Okay.
So left me with my 3 daughters to, quote unquote babysit, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're watching videos, and I got a little bored. I'm like, I'm gonna go check on eBay, just check some stuff out. I knew my brother-in-law was selling a few things, so I knew his screen name. So I went to what he was selling, and he was selling this statue. It was about, I don't know, about that long, close to a foot long, and it was a sculpture of Jesus at the Last Supper. And he was selling it for 99 cents. And in his description, he put, "This is a must-have if you are into religious artifacts." And I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. What are you talking about? You probably bought this at the,
Artifact.
religious artifacts, right?
Yeah.
You probably bought it at the 99-cent store. So he was selling it. So I decided to prank him. And I wrote him this silly question, pretending that I was interested in it. And I said, yeah, I collect religious artifacts as well. I've been to Morocco, and I've been to all these
Jerusalem.
places. Yeah, Jerusalem, and buying all these, religious artifacts. I would love to have it, And so he sent me a reply, said, "Hey, Paul, that's pretty funny. You should try this on other people to see if you can, prank them."
Yeah.
So I did one that night on somebody that was selling a bird cage. And they said that in their description, they said that the bird cage is worry-free, in quotes. So I'm like, what the heck?
Worry-free.
Yeah, what does that even mean, worry-free? I mean, it's a bird cage.
Yeah.
So I asked them a question saying, I'm kind of obsessive compulsive. I have that type of a personality. I worry about everything. Our sippy cup's really safe. I worry about the gross national product of Hungary. I just started making up all this stuff.
All these things.
If I buy your cage, will it really make me worry-free? Thinking that's applying to me, it will make me worry-free.
Yeah.
So they wrote back, and they said, "Sorry, but the worry-free is about the easy-to-use nature of the cage. It doesn't extend to anything else. So no, it won't cure your anxiety." I thought, oh my gosh, these people believe me. What in the world?
This is gold right here.
This is gold, right? So, just like I said, with one article turned into 2, turned into 3, like writing for the newspaper.
Wait, there's one about an older lady with bongos.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What did you ask?
So there was somebody was selling those travel bongos. Right?
Yeah, the
you
little
were in the
ones.
drum corps, right? You played
Yeah.
drums, right? You got the strap, right? And
Yeah.
play bongos. So I said, yeah, my great grandmother Kiki, her name is Kiki. She's living with us, and she doesn't do anything. She just sits around the house. She doesn't even do our any laundry. Doesn't cook, doesn't clean, just taking up space. I said, I got a really good idea that we're going to strap some bongos, to Grandma Kiki, send her to the street corner, and have her play the bongos and hope for loose change. That way she can pay some rent.
Help
right?
out.
Just goofing. So they responded and said, how much does your grandmother weigh? If you put the straps the right way, I think she can carry it. So they were serious.
Oh, man.
Here I am trying to send out my grandmother or my great
Poor
grandmother.
Kiki's like,
Poor Kiki. But the people, they want to sell their items so bad that they'll answer any crazy question. So,
and you're like, I've got something here.
I got something here. So I kept doing it, and I got a book agent, which is crazy. I sent a proposal to like 5 different book agents just on the fly. One agent, called me a couple days later, said, "This is awesome. I want to represent you. I think we can sell this. A year and a half later, we sold it to one of the top 5 publishing companies. It's wild, right?
I just bought his
book
book
of
on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's out there. I got his
It's
book.
called Letters to eBay.
Yeah.
And I made up a fake name.
Yeah, why did you change your name?
I don't know, because there's some, well, there's a lot of prank letter books out there.
Yeah.
One of the most famous ones are called Letters from a Nut. They were
Letters from a
very
Nut.
popular, and the guy was anonymous, and he had a pen name. So I thought, I'll do this. I'll do the same thing.
Pen
So I
name.
called myself Art Farkas,
Art Farkas.
sounding like, kind of a guy that would send a kooky question. So
Art
yeah, so
Farkas.
my
Like
name was
Dr.
obviously in it.
Demento.
So obviously my name's in it, but it's under the pen name Art Farkas. Letters to eBay.
And it's still out there. We can
It's
still
still
get
out
copies.
there. Yeah, you bought one, right?
Yeah, guys, check out Amazon, and it's called
Letters to eBay.
Letters to eBay by Art Farkas.
Did you pay
Check it out.
$2.99 for it?
I believe
For
it was around
99 cents.
$2.99.
Oh, there you go.
There was even used copies out there that you could
For
buy.
a penny, maybe.
No, it was like a 99 cents for the used copy. What's funny is like whenever you try to buy something, right? It's like, oh, 99 cents, $18 shipping. And
Yeah,
you're kind of like,
that's where
wait.
they make their money.
That's where they got it. They got you on the shipping. Okay, so you're an author, you're a trumpet player, you're with ESPN, sports writer, awesome educator. Is there anything else that we have missed about Paul Meadors?
Well, you saw my couple pictures of my arcade and Star Wars
Oh,
room, right?
that's a museum. That's not
museum.
That's not even a. It went from man cave to like official museum.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you had a full stormtrooper costume in there.
That's one thing I haven't gotten into. I kind of make fun of those guys sometimes.
Oh, the costume guys?
A little bit,
like
because
the
I've been to a lot of
costume guys.
Comic Cons and Wonder Cons and different things
Yeah.
like that, and it's that's a different level.
That's like
for me.
cosplay.
That's cosplay. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the ESPN radio, is that year round, or is that only during championship season, or how does that work?
So I started the show in August, and it turned into a school year deal, right? So it's going from August up until June. So I take a couple months off in the summer, re-energize, recharge my batteries,
Yeah.
and then get back at it.
Oh
But
my god.
yeah, I also broadcast. I'm the color guy for high school games. So we
Oh
did
my-
14 football games this year. Did the Valley Championship games at
Yeah.
Sound Arena. So that was really fun. Did 3 games there this year. And one cool story, Robert, is I got to broadcast 5 high school football games this year with Pat Hill.
Pat Hill.
The Pat Hill.
Anytime, anywhere, Pat Hill.
That Pat Hill.
He was one of my favorite coaches.
He's amazing. It was
Wow.
so fun.
So what's Pat
talking-
like?
When we do it, we had a 3-man booth when he would come on. So there's a play-by-play guy,
Yeah.
and then there was Pat, and then there was me. And when Pat wasn't there, it would just be the play-by-play guy and me. But when Coach Hill was there, it just added such a great dynamic to the broadcast because, I mean, if you listen, I mean,
he's got
he's
a
the color
voice.
guy for with Paul Leffler,
Yeah,
right,
that's
on
right.
1340 for Fresno State games. And he is as advertised. He's so genuine. He is so nice. When I'm on the broadcast with him, my number one thing is to not say something stupid. That's kind of my mentality because I don't want Pat Hill to hit
Come
me with
at
an elbow and say, "What are you talking about, Meadors?" But I do have a funny story about Pat. So I think it was the second game that we broadcasted, and I like to bring water or snacks during the broadcast. And I got one of those bags of M&Ms, just kind of that small snack size.
Peanut or plain?
Peanut.
All right.
All right.
He's a peanut guy, Pro. We're okay.
All right. So I had that right there by on the desk or the table wherever we're broadcasting. So I put that out there, and Pat Hill sees it, and he just sticks his hand in there. He grabs some M&Ms. He's just chomping away. I'm like, all right, dude likes peanut M&Ms. Cool.
He's not asking. He's not checking.
He's not asking. He don't check. Yeah, what
It-
Pat
it's
Hill
the
wants, Pat
green
Hill
room.
gets. Yeah, that's right. So then the next week, I bring the same thing, but then I bring some those bugles. You remember bugles? It's like a corn chip,
Yeah, I
shaped
had
like
those
triangles?
last week. I had them last week.
all right?
Shaped
So
like
then
a
I brought that.
shaped like a cone.
Shaped like a
Little
cone.
cone.
Easy to chew, easy crunch, right? So I got the bag of M&Ms, got the bag of bugles. Do a little experiment, see what Pat Hill does.
Yeah.
Pat Hill does exactly what he did the week before. He reaches in to grab some M&Ms, chomping away. Bugles, hey, Meadors, what are these? These look pretty good. Chomping away on the bugles. right? So that was kind of my thing on the way to football games with Pat Hill. I'd go to the store and
Bring the
I'd get him
snacks.
some bugles and some M&Ms. And
He ate the
maybe French
bugles
fries.
too?
He loved it. One time I brought the caramel bugles.
Yeah.
That dude was in heaven. He's like, "Oh, Meadors, you brought me the good stuff this time. I can't stop eating these things." So he's an absolute joy. He's great, and he does the same things for Fresno State.
Yes.
He hates UCLA. Hates UCLA. So when they broadcast games at UCLA, he's a big pistachio guy. He's got a pistachio sponsor. They call it Pat Stachio. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, Pat
But
Stachio.
that's perfect for him.
Pat Stachio. So his thing was he'd be eating his pistachios and he'd just throw the shells onto the ground. You don't care. It's UCLA.
There you go. It's UCLA.
You guys pick it
Let
up.
them Bruins clean it up.
Let them pick it up. And then you go to the AD's office and he'd raid his refrigerator. He's like, "I'm taking this. I'm taking that. You don't like UCLA."
So, okay, so this is what I was going to ask you, because everybody I know has a cool, like, athlete encounter, right? Jim, who was the pitcher, the Yankees pitcher that you hung out with?
Oh, wow.
Mariano Rivera came to his high school, and he hung out with him, and I was like so jealous. So you've met a bunch of guys, I'm sure, and I don't want to badmouth anybody, but who's the coolest guy or gal, athlete, that you hung out with or just spent time around?
I think I mentioned Tom Goodwin, and that was like, even though he's like only 2 years older than me,
Yeah.
he was a hero of mine. And so here he hits some of his stories. He's now the first base coach for the Atlanta Braves, but he won a World Series as a coach for the Boston Red Sox in 2018. He's got great stories. But honestly, I got to talk. It wasn't a one-on-one in-person interview, but I got to talk to Stephen Vogt, who played baseball at Central Valley Christian, went to Azusa Pacific, got drafted late. He's a true underdog story. Was a two-time majors and majors. He went 0 for 25 to start his major league career. He didn't know if he was ever going to get a chance to get another at bat because the season ended. He went 0 for 25. He would have been, if he would have never made it to the majors after that, he would have been the only player to get 15 or more at bats and never get a hit in the major leagues. Eventually made it back to the majors, was a two-time All-Star with the Oakland A's as a catcher. Bounced around, played for the Giants for a year, a few other teams. But I got to interview him right before his last year with the A's. And on his final at-bat in the major leagues, his kids announced his name over the loudspeaker.
Is this on YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
I saw
It'll
this
give
video.
You chills.
Yes.
And now batting,
I cried a
our
little bit.
daddy, Stephen Vogt.
I cried a little bit. Oh my God.
And then he hits a home run in his last at-bat.
Oh my God. And his kids there.
It was his kids there announcing his name. So I talked to him. We had a great discussion. Ended up playing for the A's that following year. Became the bullpen coach for the Mariners. And just this year, he's now the manager. He's the second youngest manager in the major leagues. He got the manager job for the Cleveland Guardians. So I got to talk to a major league manager. I sent him a text about a week after he got the job. I didn't want to shoot him a text too soon. I wanted to time it right. And said, "Congrats, Stephen. We're proud of you and accomplishments. You're going to do a great job this year." And here he is, brand new manager. That dude texted me back within 20 minutes. He's like, "Thank you, Paul." And that just meant the world to me that he said thank you. And he's big time, man. He's the manager of the Cleveland Guardians.
Wow.
Yep.
That is an amazing story of resilience. That needs to be a movie right there.
It is.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so what I like to do with these inspirational interviews is you've had a lot of success, right? And you've come from small town roots. There's a lot of kids out there, right, who might watch this and say, "Hey, you know what? Maybe I want to get into radio. Maybe I want to get into broadcasting. Maybe I want to write a book." What would you say was the key to your success or getting through those tough times?
Yeah, I think first of all, perseverance is huge. I mentioned the story about a young man that I took home and got his bike. I mean, you've been in education for a long time. We all got stories like that where we impacted a kid that might not have the resources that all other kids have. Perseverance is huge. Believing in yourself is huge. I think just being a kind person goes a long way as well. Kindness wins out. I think most of the time.
Where do you think you got your demeanor from? Your kindness, your empathy?
I think working in a group home is one way. I think I got it from my parents, from my dad especially, passed away almost 2 years ago. At my dad's funeral, I'd have tons of people that come up to me and tell stories about my dad that I hadn't heard yet, and how everyone just respected him and loved him, because for him it was never about him when he engaged in a conversation with somebody. He would always be the first one to ask questions. He always made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. And you do that as well with your show. I've seen clips of your show.
Wow,
You do that too. And I think that's a big part of life, is putting others ahead of you, because other people are watching, right? And other people, you may not know it, but people are watching you and they're studying you. And if you could be kind and encouraging, I think that goes a long way. But sure, there's a luck factor with a lot of things, but I think when you're passionate about something as well, things work out. Like with writing, like I was all in with my writing. I worked really hard at it. I worked really hard at publishing my book. I really worked really hard at perfecting my craft as much as possible with radio and with teaching as well. I feel like when you have passion for something, and you have inspiration, even when doors close, you just keep kicking at it and see if it opens. So there's a lot of kids out there that need to hear that, and that need to have somebody believe in them and encourage them. And being in education, I feel like I'm using my talents for that.
I'm so glad you're an educator. We need so many more role models like you. Educator, writer, trumpet player, composer, published author, ESPN broadcasting. Man, we got I think it's the most decorated guest so far, huh?
Well, I would throw something at you, Robert, is your time putting together the library at London is, I don't know how much you've talked about it personally, but personally I saw the videos, and I saw, I have a teacher at our school too, that's right next door to me, that
Liz Rodriguez. Yeah,
who,
I worked with her.
Yeah, who just says glowing things about you. And, when you put your heart into
Liz.
something, she's great. I worked with her for a lot of years. When you put your heart in something, right, and you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. And you did that with the library at London. So those things don't go unnoticed.
Oh, thank you for that. Wow, we can round up. Yes. And Jim, wonderful job. And I'm going to follow Jim's advice, because he always says this. You guys, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed Paul's story, please like and subscribe, and let us know what you think about the show. Leave some comments for us. Chances Are Productions, Rob Izquierdo, and Paul Meadors here today. So we want to finish reminding you of all the things that Paul's doing right now that you can support. He's got his wonderful book out. Repeat the title again, Paul.
Letters to eBay.
Letters to eBay by Art Farkas. Ooh, I got that right.
You did
Art Farkas.
Without your notes.
Yeah,
Good
you
job.
can check that out on Amazon. Where else can we find it?
Yeah,
eBay.
So
Can we find it on eBay?
There you go. You can find it on eBay. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we want to tune into your radio show,
10 to 12 Saturday mornings on 1430 ESPN. You can listen online as well if you're not, if you're driving around your car, or you have the old school transistor radio. You can listen on 1430 ESPN Fresno.com.
yes.
There's a listen live button. So yeah, that's
Saturdays.
That's what a lot of people do. Yeah.
And are you still writing articles?
I am. I write for a website called SB Live. It's a national high school website, but they have a California edition. So I do rankings, and every once in a while I'll do a game story on that.
Okay,
as well.
we're going to add those links to our episode here with Paul. Thank you once again for being here.
Absolutely.
Mr. Paul Meadors and RobLive. Oh, yeah, no, go for it, Jim. I love Jim with the buttons. He's got the greatest timing. All right, as always, people, as we always say, love, peace, and chicken grease. This is RobLive, and we out.